Welcome to MMO Grinder Sidequest, where I take a look at early open or closed betas, subscription trials, and simpler titles, giving you a quick first impression. Today I'll be looking at Atlas. Revealed seemingly out of nowhere at the 2018 Game Awards, Atlas surprised people with the environments on display and the promise of a Sea of Thieves with more content available. But after announcing an early access release date that got pushed back twice before getting pushed back a third time, then a fourth, the optics on this game aren't great. But now that it's available in early access, is it worth a look? Let's find out now. Sorry, in 3 seconds. Okay, definitely by tomorrow. Atlas isn't entirely bad looking for its state. There's some pretty impressive visuals, interestingly designed enemy ships, and some impressive water effects, but it doesn't hold a candle to what's been seen in Sea of Thieves. The animations are stiff, awkward, and extremely choppy. The optimization is all over the place, with stories of low-end PCs reporting smooth frame rates on high settings, and high-end PCs barely able to get 20 FPS on low, if it doesn't outright destroy their computer in the process. The 100 gig install size is not winning over any players at the moment either. Bad connections, bad frame rates, bad animations, and bad collision detection all give way to a nigh impossible and unenjoyable combat experience while you aimlessly swipe at enemies, hoping that any of your blows land, while small enemies at level 1 will seem to destroy players who are effortlessly taking out level 10 creatures just a bit earlier. Inconsistency is everywhere. And before you comment, yes, I have heard and seen evidence that this is just a reskin of Ark with the same problems that Ark had at launch. I've never played Ark, so don't ask me to confirm that, but if something has you saying, well, that sounds like Ark, that's probably true. The game's theme is a bit catchy, but it suffers from odd repetitiveness, though its use of music in-game tends to punctuate action, as well as pretend your inevitable death from starvation and the like. This is a survival game that's not very easy to survive in, especially when starting out. The character creator has you able to create some fairly generic characters with no real choice of hairstyle, but offering up sliders that let you create no shortage of humanoid abominations. I highly advise anyone who moves the hip depth slider to max to turn your character around. I had a literal laugh out loud moment when I realized what that had done. Once you've added the appropriate junk in your trunk, you can pick a server square. The map starts you on several sections, in a cross pattern. Choose any of the available free ports as they'll have most of the items you need to survive within reach, but you'll be stuck at level 8 until you gain the ability to leave. Leaving is no cakewalk, as this is seriously one of the roughest starts to a survival game I've seen. You'll get bombarded with text at the start of the game that'll give you so much information about what you're supposed to do and yet will not help you in the slightest, as it won't be relevant right away. You'll have no tools to begin gathering beyond punching rocks and trees with your fists, which will severely damage your health. You can hope to find the surprisingly few loose rocks around for a better chance at the start, but also note that every death on a Freeport server starts you over at square one. You can die gathering materials, die from thirst, die from starvation, die from vitamin deficiency, or an overabundance of a certain vitamin, as well as any high-level creature or sudden swarm of creatures that will spawn and chase you halfway across the map, up walls, through water, and through walls to kill you. If you manage to scrape by any of these factors to survive long enough to set up stuff for yourself, the game's various technical hiccups might make that all the harder to deal with. Respawning properly in a crafted bed seemed to be a crapshoot if they ever worked properly. If you died in a lawless region, it would allow you to retrieve the items from your corpse, but half the time you would spawn on a separate island altogether, or even at the bottom of the ocean. When Dresker and I had started to get a handle on things, we'd found that getting a raft ASAP and outfitting it with anemones was a surefire way to make the game tolerable. Once figuring out the raft's wonky controls, heading out to sea in search of new islands was a frankly fun and exciting experience, even if it seemed every square inch of new land was populated and or claimed by other people. We'd found an island with a ridiculous amount of snakes spawned on the beach, making landing impossible, while the outside waters were being bombarded by ghost ships. We headed over to a free server square to find an abundant island with a simple level of monsters and a good amount of supplies and resources, but was also overtaken almost completely by player claims. Community is unquestionably hit and miss, as the game is swarming with channers and edgelords, running around with abomination characters, using voice chat to scream profanities at you, naming their characters and ships racial slurs, or plenty of other common trolling methods abound. There's also already a massive population of Chinese players overtaking every single spot on a map, rendering the location of territory and undiscovered areas almost impossible. Though plenty other players were pleasantly cooperative, one even offering up one of their territories through the wonky broken claim system for us to take for ourselves, though we did eventually just find our own space to clear out and start building. I had even managed to make my own raft and set up a shipyard, while Dresker began construction on a sloop so that we could start our high seas Age of Sail adventure in the proper way. See, we knew the game was broken. It's early access, so we were willing to tolerate the bugs, the collision problems, and the like. We dealt with overpowered alpha spawns in the starter towns ganking anything that got near them, or a massive overabundance of enemy ships suddenly patrolling the shores of newbie towns and shelling new players' structures. We lost items and even a raft or two due to these issues and server resets, but getting them back wasn't too much of an issue at that point. We saw an unnecessary revisal of the skill system, forcing players to have to respec and lose half of their progress and character creation that they had just made, giving us a fix to something that no one thought was broken. But Age of Sail titles just scratched the right itch for us, and heading out into the open water, discovering the flotsam and treasures within, crossing the borders of a server to be greeted with massive water spouts and terrifying ships of the damned was a fun and exciting surprise. Setting up a storage area, building up a couple rafts, and starting construction on a whole new ship was exciting and brought about promise of even more things for us to explore. I logged off last night when Dresker stayed on, practically deforesting a patch of the island to get us the required supplies on his nearly completed sloop. Then the server went down for a maintenance patch, and the entire server section that we were on was wiped of all its structures. My raft, Dresker's raft, our storage boxes, the shipyard, and the nearly finished sloop within it. All vanished with an incompetent server technician's keystroke. Don't buy this. The developers have no idea what they're doing, and the game is far too unstable and unplayable to be taking up the stupid amount of space on your hard drive, while Grapeshot keeps fixing things that no one thought were broken, and letting all of the issues that every player has addressed just run more and more rampant. There is a reason that Dresker named his raft Incompetent Devs, while I named mine Buyer's Remorse. Promise is there, but don't expect to see it for another quarter-year or two. Until then, I've already uninstalled it. Is Skull and Bones coming out yet? This has been an MMO Grinder Sidequest, and it's time I logged out.